Welcome to my third round recap of the Southern California Collegiate Invitational. I'm currently 1 out of 2 after winning my first game and losing my second to an international master. In this game, I played a nearly perfect game of chess, so let's see how it goes.
So he starts off with e4, and I played d5, the Scandinavian defense. You might notice that I played the Scandi in the last round where I was paired against the international master, and that didn't go so hot, but I was feeling a little bit better considering I'm not playing international master this time. He plays takes, I play knight f6, same line, and then he plays knight c3 here. This is really not the way to fight for an advantage against the Scandi. Right, as you can see, the eval bar is almost back to 0 immediately. So I play takes, he plays takes back, and I play takes with the queen. And this is nice and comfortable to play. I play bishop to g4. This is some kind of normal development. He plays bishop to e2, which is fine, but it's really passive. So I play knight to c6, normal development. He plays d4, and I castle queenside. And I'm already putting some pressure on his central pawn on d4, and by extension, the queen behind it. So he plays c3, and then I play e5, which is a popular move in the Scandi. And what it really does is put pressure on the center, like I was saying. So he plays castles kingside here. And already I think I'm a little bit better. I play e takes d4. And instead of taking back here, which is what I totally expected, he plays c4. It's a mistake, but it makes some logical sense. If instead he had played c takes d4 here, then I have knight takes, and it looks like he can just win this pawn back with knight takes. But when I play bishop takes, then he plays knight takes. I have queen takes queen, rook takes, and rook takes is checkmate. So he can't actually take back with the knight here. So instead, he has to take this back with the queen, and then I play queen takes knight, and here I'm up a pawn. After he plays bishop to g5, f6, it looks a little bit uncomfortable for me. He's getting some development, but at the end of the day, I'm just up a pawn, and it's going to be okay for me. He's trying to go for a pawn storm on the queen side. And so what he's saying is that he's sacrificed this pawn here on d4, and that he's just going to go for an attack and be totally fine. I don't agree with what he's saying here, but it makes some logical sense, and I could see how he'd do it. I played queen back to d7. The computer liked queen back to e6 a little bit better because it's more active. But I just thought queen d7 was nice and safe, and there's no point in trying to fight for anything more here. He plays knight back to d2, which is really passive. As Gotham says, moving a piece backwards is often not the right move. And here is one of those cases. He just relieved the tension a little bit for himself, but it wasn't a productive move for him. I play h5 here, protecting my bishop, because he was threatening to take the bishop. But now if he takes the bishop, then I'll take back with the h-pawn, and then my rook is open and staring at his king, which would be really good for me. One of those cannons against the king situation. So that's good. He plays a3 instead of taking, and he's preparing this queenside pawn storm, which I was talking about earlier. Here I play knight e5, and this was my one real inaccuracy of the game. This isn't a bad move by any means, but what it really fails to do is get more pieces into my attack. I have a dominant position here. I'm like -2 according to the engine, but I have to figure out a way to push forward, to keep going with my attack, and knight to e5 doesn't really do anything. What would have been a better move is d3 pushing my agenda, and then he would have to play like bishop to f3, or trade, which I already said was bad, and then I could play knight d4, and look at how good this
this knight is right here. It's cutting into all these good squares in his position. And either of these two squares are anchored by the pawn. It looks really, really good. My position's totally dominant, and it's like -3. So say if you played b4 here, I would then continue with bishop to d6. And I'm attacking his king side. And yeah, my pieces look great, and his pieces look really passive and terrible. But anyway, I played knight e5, which was a little bit of a waste of a move. And then he plays b4. This is his whole idea with the queenside pawn storm. Again, it makes sense, but it's not very good. I play bishop to e7, and I'm trying to get my bishop onto this long diagonal. Not that diagonal. This long diagonal right here. He puts his bishop on it first, and then I put mine there. And then he plays knight to e4, which makes sense. It's attacking my bishop. And so I thought for a while here, and I decided to play d3. And d3 is actually a pretty interesting move. It's trying to make him make a decision, because when I would take this bishop, it would hit the queen and the rook, so it would be really good for me. But what it also does is he can take this with the bishop, and then when I take back with my bishop, I'm attacking his rook. And now this is a standard double attack, where I'm attacking two pieces at the same time. So it looks really good for me. Here, he plays a move I didn't really expect, but is not bad. He played bishop takes g4 first. I already told you why this isn't great, because I can just take with the h-pawn. And here, this looks totally fine. My rook is open, again, staring down at the king, the whole cannon situation. He plays knight to c5. This move I didn't expect, but it's not very good, because I can just move my queen anywhere. I moved it to c6. Actually, queen to f5 was a little bit better, but this is still totally winning. He takes my knight on e5. I take back with the bishop, and here, this is a fork. I'm attacking both the rook in the corner and the pawn on h2. And once the pawn on h2 falls, his king is very close to collapsing. So this looks kind of dire for him. He plays queen takes g4 because it's a check, so my king has to move. But it doesn't really change the situation at all. He plays h3 and loses the rook in the corner. This is just an exchange here, but remember this d-pawn, now it's still an isolated d-pawn, and I push it to d2, and I'm threatening to promote pretty soon. So what he does is rook to d1, and then I play rook to e8, and I'm threatening rook to e1 check, and then I'm going to promote. He sees that, and he thought for a really long time here, and played queen g5. And queen g5 is not a good move. It's really just for tricks. His trick is that if I play rook check here, and play here, and then I take his rook, he has checkmate and won. I obviously saw this, so I played rook to e1 check, he played king to h2, and then I played queen to d6 check. And this queen now defends the rook. And this is winning. He blocks, I take the rook, I'm now up 7 points of material, and I'm going to promote this pawn still. He plays queen back to g4, I play rook to h1 check, sacking the rook so that I can get another queen. He plays king here, and then I trade queens. And here he resigns, because he's down 19 points of material. So I'm currently 2 out of 3 after winning this game, which means I'll be playing another strong player in the next round. Let's see how it goes.